Welcome back to the FiLMiC channel. In this video we're going to go over FiLMiC Pro's lens selection menu on both iOS and Android, and we'll discuss the different use cases for multi-lens devices, including the often misunderstood zoom lens mode on iOS, why your Android multi-lens device might only support some or none of those extra lenses, and when using an external Tele lens makes more sense than using the one built into your device. Now, it's important to preface this tutorial by stating that if you're using a single lens iPhone like the SE, 7, 8 or 10R, or a single lens Android, then tapping the camera button under settings will just switch between rear and selfie cameras as you'd expect. However, on compatible dual lens devices, it reveals the lens selector. Let's start with the options you get on a dual lens iPhone first. When I tap on the camera button, I get 4 options: wide, tele, zoom and selfie. Wide, tele and selfie are self-explanatory. Typically, the wide lens on most smartphones has a lower aperture than the tele. The lower your camera's aperture, the more light it can let in. For example, the XS Max has a wide lens aperture of 1.8, whereas the tele lens is f2.4. So you'll want to use the wide lens for most of your shooting, but certainly in low light. It's the equivalent of a 26mm lens. On the XS and XS Max, it's at the very top, with the tele beneath it. If we tap to select the Tele lens, you can see we get a 2x punch-in, giving us a 52mm equivalent. The Tele lens is great not only for getting 2x closer to the action, but also giving you a shallower depth of field. If we compare the two, you can see the difference between the wide lens and Tele lens when it comes to not only framing from the same point, but also to depth of field. As mentioned before, the Tele lens has a higher aperture than the wide, which means it lets in less light, and as a result you'll often find that your shots are slightly noisier. If you have a single lens device, or you want a 52mm equivalent but using the superior wide-angle lens, well, this is where an external Tele lens can be really helpful. If I switch back to the wide lens, then attach a 2x external lens, you can see we suddenly get the benefits of being closer to our subject with a shallower depth of field. Here's a side-by-side between the iPhone XS Max's built-in Tele lens, next to the external Tele lens attached to the wide. Let us know in the comments which you think looks better. Now, the third option in FiLMiC Pro's lens menu on iOS is the zoom lens. What the zoom lens does is use an API that Apple provides us that intelligently switches from the wide to the Tele lens on the fly while zooming for superior quality. Also, between 1 and 2x it's supposedly sampling pixels from both lenses. Then at 2x it will switch to the Tele lens and apply digital zoom to that. Here is a zoom from min to max performed using the wide lens. It is a digital zoom through the entire range applied exclusively to the wide lens. Here is the same zoom performed using the zoom lens. You'll notice that around about the 2x mark there's a quick switch to the Tele lens. There are, however, a couple of things to be aware of about the zoom lens. Firstly, Apple doesn't support manual controls to be used in conjunction with the zoom lens API, so this means no manual arcs and no manual white balance. You can, however, use Log V2, which is part of the cinematographer kit in-app purchase. Secondly, Apple decides whether it will actually switch to the Tele lens or not. If there isn't enough light in your scene, or Apple deems it simply unworthy of the switch, well, you're out of luck. It will apply the full zoom on the wide lens. So whilst the zoom lens offers some great advantages if zooming in on your subject is key, I'd recommend testing it before rolling to ensure that there's enough light in your scene for Apple to think the switch to the Tele lens makes sense. And lastly, we have the selfie lens. Apple doesn't support manual focus on the selfie lens as it uses a fixed focus, so the manual arcs are unavailable and you'll need to use the reticles. So those were the 4 lens options on iOS multi-lens devices. Now let's move over to Android, where things get a little bit more complicated. Well, in short, not all Android handset manufacturers provide third-party developers with access to all lenses, which is a real shame. If you're lucky enough to find a model that does, as is the case on the Samsung S10 range, when you open the camera menu, you'll see all available lenses, which in the case of the S10 Plus includes the standard mid-lens, the ultra-wide lens, which is pretty epic, especially as high bitrate 4K recording and Log V2 are fully supported here. But note that the ultra-wide uses a fixed focal length, so manual focus adjustments are not possible. And we get access to not one, but two selfie cameras. The standard selfie and the wide selfie, so you can fit all your friends in the shot. But you may have noticed that on the rear of the S10 Plus there are in fact 3 cameras, including a beautiful telephoto lens. So why can't we select the Tele in FiLMiC Pro? Well, Samsung doesn't let us access it, or any other third-party developer for that matter. And you will likely experience this on other models and brands too. Some but not all of the available lenses will be accessible to you. This is really unfortunate for filmmakers, and all you can do right now is continue to let the manufacturer know that they should open up their lens support to third-party apps. Well, we hope this has clarified lens selection in FiLMiC Pro on both iOS and Android, as well as given you some good pointers on which lenses to select based on your needs. If it helped, please like and share and subscribe to the channel for more, and we'll see you next week with more mobile filmmaking tips and tricks. Thanks for watching.